Hello, hello. The next one is a song from Palestine.
Welcome to Radio Against Repression. You're listening to 88.4.
Palestine triggers sensitivities. And again, when the pressure to give more weight to those sensitivities than truth, facts and scholarly interpretation, we are already in a very dangerous place. Freedom of expression is the lifeblood of academia and is necessary to foster an environment where ideas can flourish.
Welcome, dear listener, to episode 2 of Radio Against Repression. What you're about to hear is a lecture by UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese at bUm in Berlin. It is from February 19th, 2025. The lecture was supposed to take place in a big lecture hall at Freie Universitat Berlin, along with Eyal Weizman, Director of Forensic Architecture. But the university cancelled the event after massive critique, amongst others from the Israeli ambassador and from the mayor of Berlin, Wegner, who called it antisemitic. So the relocated event at bUm took place under police presence. A few days earlier, Albanese's lecture at a university in Munich had also been cancelled, as we mentioned in episode 1. These events come after the education resolution titled Antisemitism in Universities and Schools that was passed in late January in the German parliament. In the first episode of this podcast, we do a close reading of the resolution, so do go back and listen to that if you haven't already. Embracing the goal to think global, act local, we've paired this lecture with a critical reading on the notorious education resolution between artist and activist Zoe Claire Miller in the studio with Alex Head. So stick around for the second half of the episode. But now, without further ado, Francesca Albanese.
Radio Against Repression.
Good morning, everyone, and I would like to start with some words of gratitude and acknowledgement to what remain of the once was Freie University and the academics who stood the ground to have me and Eyal here. Thank you very much. And to those of you who are here today to engage, hopefully, in a productive discussion. Of course, it has been extremely tense, my whole stay in this country, and I didn't expect anything of that, although I knew that talking about Palestine today here is controversial, but I was expecting the usual Palestine exception that I see in my own country, in the rest of the West, frankly. This is not new. Although what's happening now, it's extreme. And before getting into what I've been doing and why it's important that we keep on focusing on the facts and the legal qualification and the obligations that both entail for countries like Germany, I want to make 2 comments on universities. I find extremely, extremely worrisome that universities have cancelled our lectures, because the academia serves as a bulwark of freedom of thought, providing a sanctuary where diverse ideas can be explored, can be challenged, and refined. This is what drives societal change. And these are places where we can agree to disagree. It's from the disagreement that we also provoke change. And instead, over time, I've seen universities, especially over the past 15 years, universities everywhere, becoming places of obscurantism. It's not just that Palestine is the exception, no matter the fact that it has a geographical, historical, political, international relations, international law dimension. Palestine triggers sensitivities. And again, when the pressure to give more weight to those sensitivities than truth, facts and scholarly interpretation, we are already in a very dangerous place. Freedom of expression is the lifeblood of academia and is necessary to foster an environment where ideas can flourish, not just for the scholars who write wonderful books, expensive books that students have to buy and read. Eventually, this is your place. This is a gymnasium for you, young people, who train yourself, who learn something that is to be brought then to the society. And I want to spend a word on what has happened in Germany, because we need to be very clear about the danger that I see. And this is besides my being a special rapporteur. This is besides me being a human rights lawyer. I say that as a European who shares and feels the responsibility, not just of the present, but also what we have done in our past, on our soil. And the fact, I'm not surprised that the Israeli ambassador and all the squad of smearers that in every country, each Israeli embassy relies upon, these mafia-style techniques have been used all over. I'm not surprised by that. I'm a little shocked that the mayor of the city and some politicians have associated themselves with it. But I'm really disturbed to see that the university itself, the senior management, the dean, and but I need to be honest here, gives in to this pressure, whatever the threats have been. Because yesterday, I went to an event knowing that I could be arrested. Excuse me, I'm not like you. I don't have the courage you have, putting yourself on the line all the time as you go to protest. This is not who I am. I don't go to protest. I don't want to face arrest, And I have 2 kids I want to go and see tomorrow. And still, because I've committed apparently criminal offenses in this country, because I've spoken, as Eyal did, about the genocide of the Herero and Nama, the only thing that I spoke it in the same breath as I was speaking of the Holocaust. Apparently, this is relativizing, degrading the Holocaust. Have we lost our mind? The other thing is that we should be really worried about not just these mafia-style techniques of intimidation and threats, but when those who are there to protect the space where our freedoms must be exercised give in. So I expect that a university that carries freedom in its name acts as a place of freedom. And I truly hope that this incident is the last in the history. It's the last stain in the history of otherwise a very reputable university. Another thing, and please, I know how much you have been under pressure. When I look at people in rooms here, you look traumatized to me because you laugh a lot, which is a sign of trauma. It's true. I've been working in societies that have undergone horrible things. When I went to Cambodia, I couldn't realize why people were laughing so much when talking about the genocide. This is how people cope with trauma, one of many. So I really implore you to be as serious as you can, because I'm going to address the police. And I'm very serious. Police officers are public servants dedicated to upholding the common good, not a specific ideology. Human rights, such as freedom of expression and opinion, are fundamental limits that must be respected and protected. And I'm not saying that because I want to lecture anyone, but because, I've seen in recent days and before scenes of law enforcement agents putting their hands on the face of people like this, for people old and young who are just holding banners to stop the war, to stop the genocide. And I'm sorry if this war elicits strong sentiments in the German people. Hey, this is not about you. This is about the people who's being slaughtered. Slaughtered, 17,000 children. Just stop at this. Israel has killed through severe bombing, carpet bombing, sniper fire, artillery fire with your weapons, and American weapons primarily. It has slaughtered 17,000 children. And 70% of the victims of this assault, this latest assault in Gaza, have been women and children from October 2023 until October 2024, the period that I've monitored and documented, where I collected testimonies and forensic evidence and other documents and analysis, telling you it's been brutal and it's been intentional. So I would expect that law enforcement agents are also people who read newspapers, who read the news. Perhaps they should read something else than German newspapers, but social media, there is this information. So when you crash a protest, you should know that these are people who have lost family members in Gaza. Chances are that many of them have lost family members and community and their homes. And those others who stand in solidarity with them are just protecting freedoms in this country. Because again, we are not here as a lawyer and as a special rapporteur. Let me put back my hat. I'm not asking for charity, or I'm not here to remind the German government of its obligations under international law. Yes, I'm here also for that, incidentally. But the point is that there is something extremely dangerous that is happening in this country. And the level of repression that I've seen here, it's something I've not experienced anywhere else in the past 3 years as a special rapporteur. And I go to countries where people are, in fact, arrested because of their exercise of freedom of expression. And still, we are at the heart of Europe, and this is a country that claims to be rule of law and international law abiding. So before I go to share what I wanted to and why it's so important to talk about, so before I describe what I've seen and why I qualify it as genocide, now I'm definitely not alone, is because if we don't understand that this is genocide, we will not be able to find the right solution for now and in the future for the Palestinians and for the Israelis. I started my work as a special rapporteur of the United Nations 3 years ago, and I've been saying that from the very beginning, calling for the end of an unlawful occupation that Israel maintains in the occupied Palestinian territory, and it has maintained an unlawful occupation for 57 years, calling for the end of apartheid. It's a liberating call for both Palestinians and Israelis, because no one can brutalize, torment, dehumanize through acts of extrajudicial killings, torture, rape, which has occurred more than in the past, is not new. But rape against Palestinians in Israeli custody is absolutely not new. And we need to be clear that the hand which does it, it's the hand of someone who gets brutalized and loses his or her humanity in return. And it has happened to other societies before what is happening to Israel today. So this is why I really speak from a place of humanity and compassion and possibly wisdom. Nothing I say is to be interpreted against the Israelis. Rather the contrary. I'm not asking anyone to give away their rights. I'm just urging everyone to work so that there are no privileges that are enjoyed, in this case by the Israelis, at the expense of the rights of others. This is what equality means. It's a rebalancing, correcting act, nothing more and nothing less. And for speaking this language, I'm being silenced. Then Germany can find all the excuses it wants, and still, it doesn't change the result. It doesn't change the content of what I'm saying. Why what Israel has done constitutes genocide, according to me? The legal team of South Africa and many other states who are joining the South Africa case against Israel, but also the Nicaragua legal team who has taken Germany before the International Court of Justice, Amnesty International, is well-established Israeli Holocaust studies, scholars, historians, and many others, human rights organizations were little by little joining. It's precisely because of the specificity of the crime of genocide. What constitutes genocide is premised upon objective criteria. It's different from extermination. It's another thing. It can happen even without killing, because there are genocides in history that have been committed primarily through other acts, like cutting the bloodlines, stealing children from the Aboriginal in Australia so that they would not continue to mix the blood of the white settler race. And it has also happened in Canada with the Métis, the Inuit, and the First Nations. How much of these have Indigenous people endured? And this is why the situation in Palestine resonates so loudly with Indigenous people across the world and others who have been under the yoke of colonialism for centuries. This is also another problem that European universities have. I don't know, I cannot express myself about Freie University because I didn't have the chance to engage much with, with the university. However, it's a new trend in our part of the world to have decolonial studies. Decoloniality should be compulsory because no discipline is innocent, certainly not mine, international law, nor architecture, nor philosophy. And so we need to engage, as I speak mostly to people of a younger generation, this is your responsibility. You must know your past, not just that of your family, that of your people, that of us as a humanity. And so back to Gaza. What characterizes genocide and what Raphael Lemkin had envisaged was much broader than what is codified as crime. Because Raphael Lemkin really looked at settler colonialism or colonialism as the cradle of genocide. What has happened to the Jewish people in this part of the world, or the Roma in Sinti, is what we collectively, Europeans, in different places, have done to the colonized people. And settler colonialism is genocidal in and of itself because it's aiming to, again, taking the land, taking the resources, destroys the people. But the cultural dimension, the financial, political dimension is not part of what the crime that we have in Article 2 of the Genocide Convention contemplates. And still, what Israel has done is genocide because these acts, and especially the conditions calculated to bring about the physical destruction of the group, have been upheld by a determination to destroy. So when you hear the argument, yeah, but it's so difficult to prove intent. Yeah, when it's hidden, because people don't go around and say, destroy everyone, destroy the Amalek, when we know that Amalek means even the mother, the child, and anything that these people need to sustain themselves. Amalek has been the rallying call that Israeli political and military leaders have used to drive Israelis, including young Israelis, into a genocidal enterprise.
It's also what the Germans said during the Nama and Herero genocide. They called them Amalek. So it's very associated with settler colonial.
Yeah, but you see, this is why, mind you, there is nothing by saying that the Holocaust, and I'm saying that knowing that the truth is to be said. I don't care about how they take my words. I'm responsible for what I say. And if there is still an inch of sanity in this country, you need to understand that seriously, your brain is being manipulated. The moment you are sad that you cannot talk about the Holocaust in the context of history, they are manipulating your brain. And I'm not asking anyone not to feel guilty, because of course I feel guilty as an Italian. I feel guilty for what we have done to Jewish people in my country, and we continue to do to people who are the other. Because the Jews were the other in our white Christian society. And there are still others. And today are the Muslims and anyone who doesn't conform. So we need to wake up. We need to wake up and to look at each other as human beings. That's it. Human beings have rights, and have rights to speak within the limits of not inciting to violence, and saying Free Palestine is not incitement to violence, because the Palestine is the Palestinian people, and they are not free. Palestinians have been under a brutal military dictatorship in the land that Israel has occupied since 1967, after being dispossessed and kicked out of the land where they were living. So of course the Holocaust was a tragedy. And it was a tragedy that so many Jewish people were forced to flee because our societies were not able to protect them. And it has started before the Holocaust. The history of the Holocaust has ancient roots, come from afar. We should listen to the voices who say centuries of persecution and discrimination had made the brutalization of the Jewish people totally acceptable. This is the lesson that we need to take from the Holocaust. That the moment we start discriminating against each other on the ground of race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, political ideas, there is already something stinky. So Palestinians have been oppressed for far too long, and still they've experienced war crimes and crimes against humanity all along, because the very establishment of settlements in the occupied Palestinian territory was a criminal endeavor, constituted a grave breach of international humanitarian law, and also a crime of forcible transfer and transfer of the occupying powers, Israel's civilian population, into the occupied territory. Germany, like all the rest of the international community, was supposed to intervene. Who are the guardians of Palestinians' rights, of Palestinian self-determination, the right to exist as a people in the little that is left of their land as a sovereign state, with exclusive self-determination rights in the forms of a state, which doesn't mean that Jewish people cannot live there. All of us know Israelis who live in the occupied Palestinian territory as Israelis against apartheid. The thing is that they rent instead of stealing. This is the difference. It's not about removing all the Jews from the occupied Palestinian territory. No, some can stay. But if there is a Palestinian state, they cannot continue living on stolen land, and they will have to be law-abiding citizens instead of, many of them are ideological, violent human beings going around in the West Bank, which is called, ironically, but it's tragic, the Wild West Bank these days. So Palestinians have endured these crimes all along, and what Israel has done as of October was genocidal, because it was intended to destroy the group as such, where the group as such means that there are no individuals. It doesn't matter if you are a combatant or a combatant, if you are a child or an elderly person, if you are on a wheelchair or if you are about to give birth. It doesn't matter. You become killable, destroyable, torturable, starvable, because you are part of the group. It's not that complicated. Genocide is a horrible crime, but it's not complicated. And if we miss seeing the genocidal intent in this one, not only we will have failed the Palestinians, we will have failed yet again to prevent genocide. And this is unforgivable, because now we have the human rights system, we have the international law system, we have the Genocide Convention, which was written in order not to have again a monstrosity like that one. And trust me, we can be monsters even without getting to the level of monstrosity that led some people to build concentration camps. We can be monsters in so many ways. And this is where we need to stand together today.
Big thanks to UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese and bUm Berlin. So this is the bit where we shamelessly ask you for your support. If you think this content is important and you'd like the podcast to get its wings, consider supporting us on patreon.com/Radio Against Repression. Even a €2 donation helps to keep the lights on. But signing up for a free membership and a 5-star rating would be so appreciated. There is no paywall, and there never will be.